"You're not even fit to shine her shoes." My mother said it in front of everyone. I replied, "Then ask her to pay your bills." Nobody moved. My sister froze. Mom said it loudly so everyone could hear. Aunt Joan froze with her fork at her mouth. Cousin Merlin stopped chewing. Even Mrs. Garland, the neighbor who usually never stopped talking, bit her tongue. "You're not even worthy of cleaning Patty's shoes, Amanda." I sat in my usual place at the table, holding a glass of cheap wine that I had brought myself for my mother's birthday. 54 years old. The table was laden with food that I had prepared since early morning. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, salad, apple pie, all with my money, of course. Patty showed up at 7 in the evening with a bouquet of roses and a box of chocolates from the supermarket. The roses had already started to wilt. She must have bought them yesterday. I looked my mother in the eyes. She looked at me as if I were something unpleasant on the sole of her shoe. Patty sat next to me, smiling slightly, and I saw her nod slightly, as if approving of my mother's words. She was wearing a new blouse that I had seen on Instagram from some fashion brand. It probably cost $100. And my mother was still wearing the same jacket she had worn 5 years ago. "Then ask her to pay your bills," I said calmly. The silence became almost physical. Mom blinked. Once, twice. Aunt Joan carefully placed her fork on her plate. Mrs. Garland leaned forward, clearly interested in how things would unfold. "What did you say?" Mom finally exhaled. "I said let Patty pay your bills. Electricity, internet, half the rent, everything I've been paying for a year." Patty turned pale. Even through her foundation, you could see the blood drain from her face. Mom slowly turned to her. "Patricia." And I sat there watching them, and suddenly I wanted to laugh, because it was all so absurd, so predictable, that I just wanted to get up and leave. But I stayed. Maybe because I had been waiting for this moment my whole stupid year. Maybe because I wanted to see if for once in her life, my mother would look at me differently. When I was 8 years old, the school put on a Christmas play. I played a snowflake. Not the main role, of course, not the Snow Queen. That role went to Amber Johnson, the school principal's daughter. But I tried so hard. I learned all the movements, all the words, rehearsed at home in front of the mirror. My mother even sewed me a costume, a white dress with a train and silver sequins. I was so happy. I hung an invitation for my parents on the refrigerator in big red letters. Performance December 23rd, 6 o'clock in the evening. The performance started on time. I looked for my mom in the hall as we went on stage. The first row, the second, the third. She wasn't there. I tried not to show my disappointment, smiled, danced, and said my lines. The other children waved to their parents. I waved to an empty chair. After the performance, the teacher, Mrs. Walton, came up to me and asked if everything was okay. I said yes. My mother was probably stuck in traffic. In fact, I knew where she had gone. To Seattle, 2 hours away, because Patty had a presentation at her future college for high school seniors. Patty was 15 at the time, and she already knew she wanted to study marketing and become a successful businesswoman, as she put it. Mom repeated this to all her friends with pride in her voice. When I got home, it was almost 9 o'clock in the evening, and Mom was sitting on the couch watching TV. Patty told her about the presentation, the beautiful campus, and the interesting people she met there. Mom listened and smiled. "Mom," I said quietly, "you missed the play." She looked at me as if she had just remembered. "I'm sorry, sweetie, but this was more important to Patty. You understand, right?" I didn't cry, not even then. I just nodded and went to my room. I took off my snowflake costume and hung it neatly in the closet. I never wore it again. That Christmas, Patty got a brand new laptop, silver, shiny, with a red bow. She squealed with delight, hugged her mom, kissed her dad. I got red socks with reindeer on them and a box of chocolates. My dad, who was still alive then, looked at me guiltily and whispered when my mom walked away, "Next year will be better, Mandy. I promise." But the next year, nothing changed, and the year after that, too. Patty always got something special, a tablet, a phone, a weekend trip. I got practical things, a sweater, a backpack for school, a set of pens. When I was 16, I overheard my parents talking in the kitchen. It was late at night, almost midnight. I got up to get a drink of water and heard my mother's voice. She spoke quietly but clearly, and every word cut into my memory like a knife. I wasn't ready for a second child early. You know that. With Patty, everything went according to plan. We wanted her. We were waiting for her. But Amanda, she just happened. I tried to have an abortion, remember? But you refused. Dad replied, but quietly, I couldn't hear. And Mom added, her voice tired, almost indifferent, I'm trying. I'm really trying to love her the same. But when I look at her, all I see is my mistake. The child who ruined all my plans. I stood in the hallway, pressed against the wall, unable to breathe. The air seemed too thick, too heavy. I went back to bed and never mentioned that conversation again. Why? They would have denied everything anyway. They would have said that I misunderstood or that I dreamed it. My father died when I was 17. A heart attack. Sudden and quick. The doctors said he didn't suffer, that it all happened in a matter of minutes. Patty cried so loudly at the funeral that everyone thought she was suffering the most. She held my mother's hand, and people came up to them, hugged them, and offered words of sympathy. I stood behind them, holding my mother's other shoulder, and she didn't even look at me. Not once the whole day. After Dad's death, Mom quickly retired. She worked as a librarian at a local school, and her pension was barely enough to rent a small apartment on the outskirts of town. Patty was living on her own by then, renting a studio in the center, although she didn't have an official job. She said she was building her brand online, making YouTube videos about successful living and financial independence. The channel had 30 subscribers. I checked. I had just graduated from college and found a job as a system administrator at the CyberZone Computer Club. The salary was small, a little over $1,000 a month, but it was stable. I rented an apartment, paid for a car, and tried to save at least something. A year ago, my mom called me on a Saturday morning and said she didn't know how to pay the electricity bills. Patty promised to help a month ago, but for some reason she kept putting it off and didn't answer my calls. I came the next day, looked at the numbers. $230 for electricity, $100 for the internet, $600 a month for rent. And I decided, okay, I'll help. Quietly, without fuss. I'll just transfer the money every month. $300. It was a lot for me, almost a quarter of my salary, but I couldn't let my mom sit without electricity. She's my mom, no matter what, even if she never loved me. Mom thought it was Patty, because Patty was always telling her about her successful projects, about passive income, about how she would soon make it big and be able to buy her mom a house. In reality, Patty lived in an apartment that cost $650 a month, which Mom paid for out of the savings she had left after Dad's death. But Mom believed her. She always believed her, because Patty knew how to speak beautifully, confidently, with that special smile that made everyone melt. And now, at the holiday table, amid uneaten dishes and cheap wine, Mom looked at Patty with the expression of someone who had just awakened from a long sleep. "Patty," she repeated, her voice trembling. "Is it true? You didn't help me?" Patty shook her head as if gathering her courage, then exclaimed, her voice breaking with tears, "She's lying! Mom, it's Amanda. She always wanted to set me up. She's always been jealous of me. You know what she's like." I almost laughed. Jealous? Of me, of her. A girl with 30 followers and an apartment her mother pays for. "I have bank statements," I said, my voice calm, almost indifferent. "I can show you if you want. All the transfers, every month, exactly $300. Mom was silent. She looked at me, then at Patty. Her face was impenetrable, but I could see her jaw muscles twitching. Aunt Joan cautiously pushed her chair back, as if preparing to flee from an explosion. Merlin wiped her mouth with a napkin and stared at her plate. Mrs. Garland, on the other hand, leaned forward, her eyes burning with curiosity. And then Mom said, her voice quiet but firm, "Amanda, Why didn't you tell me? Because you wouldn't have believed me. That's not true. You don't even believe me now. Mom pressed her lips together. Patty grabbed her hand and squeezed it so hard that her knuckles turned white. Mom, don't listen to her. It's all lies. I helped you, you know that. I've always supported you. She just wants to cause trouble because she's jealous. And Mom nodded. She just nodded, slowly but firmly. I got up from the table. The chair scraped across the floor. Aunt Joan looked at me and pity flashed in her eyes. But she said nothing. No one said anything. Even Mrs. Garland was silent, which was unbelievable for her. I picked up my bag from the floor and threw on my jacket. My fingers trembled as I zipped it up. I walked to the door, and each step echoed too loudly in the stifling silence. Just as I touched the doorknob, I heard my mother's voice. "Amanda, don't be dramatic. We'll just discuss it calmly later." I closed the door. The drive home took 15 minutes. I drove on autopilot, thinking about nothing. I just looked at the road, the sparse streetlights, the dark windows of the houses. I turned on the radio, but turned it off immediately. The announcer's voice was annoying. Then I went up to my small apartment on the second floor of an old building, kicked off my shoes right at the doorstep, and sat down on the floor near the sofa. Not on the sofa, on the floor. I leaned my back against the soft upholstery and wrapped my arms around my knees, and I cried. For the first time in many years. Not loudly, not dramatically. I just sat and cried, and tears dripped onto my jeans, and my whole body trembled. I wasn't even crying from pain. I was crying from exhaustion, from trying so long, so hard, and still never being good enough. I don't know how much time passed, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. The tears dried, leaving sticky marks on my cheeks. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my sweater and just sat there, staring at the blank wall. And suddenly there was a ring at the door, sharp, insistent. Someone was pressing the button again and again, not waiting for an answer. I slowly got up, feeling my legs go numb. I walked to the door. I looked through the peephole. Patty was standing in the hallway, smiling. I didn't open the door. I just stood there and looked through the peephole at Patty, who was smiling as if nothing had happened, as if an hour ago she hadn't called me a liar in front of all the guests, as if my mother hadn't believed her instead of me. Patty rang the bell again. Then she knocked on the door. "Mandy, I know you're home. Your car is downstairs. Please open the door. We need to talk." I remained silent. I waited for her to leave, but Patty was persistent when she wanted something. She always had been. "Mandy, come on, don't be a child, open the door." I sighed and opened it. Patty immediately slipped inside, as if afraid I would change my mind. She kicked off her shoes, walked into the living room, and sat down on the sofa with her legs crossed. She acted as if it were her apartment. "Listen," she began, her voice soft, almost tender. "I understand you're upset, but Mom just got nervous today. It's her birthday. You know how she feels about turning 54? It's a big deal for her." I stood at the door and looked at my sister. She really believed what she was saying, or she was pretending so convincingly that it didn't matter. "Are you here to apologize?" I asked. Patty blinked, as if surprised. "For what?" "For calling me a liar, for saying I want to cause trouble between you two." She waved her hand as if shooing away a fly. "Come on, Mandy, they're just words. Don't take everything so personally. You've always been too sensitive." I felt something tighten in my chest. It wasn't anger. It was something worse. Disappointment that had become familiar. "What do you want, Patty?" She smiled, widely, openly, and for a moment I saw in her the little girl who always got everything she wanted. "I need your help. Financial help. Temporary, of course. I'll pay you back as soon as I can." I sat down in the chair opposite her. I waited. "You see, my YouTube channel is starting to take off," Patty continued, her eyes lighting up. "I already have 30 subscribers, and this is just the beginning. But to really take off, I need professional equipment, a camera, a microphone, lighting, plus a video editing course to make the videos look stylish, and some money for promotion, Instagram ads, targeting, It all costs money." "How much?" I asked, even though I already knew. $1,000. I was silent. $1,000. That was my budget for 3 months of food and gas. It was the money I had been saving for a new laptop because my old one could barely run the programs I needed. "I know it's a lot," Patty hastened to add, "but think of it as an investment. When my channel takes off, I'll make thousands, tens of thousands, and I'll share with you, I promise. We're sisters, right?" She leaned forward and put her hand on my knee. I looked at her nails, a fresh manicure, peach-colored with glitter. The manicure cost at least $40. "Patty, you have 30 subscribers. 30 so far. But that will grow. I just need a push. How many views does your latest video have?" She tensed up. "I don't know. I haven't counted." That's when I saw her phone on the table. The screen was lit up. She'd forgotten to lock it. I reached over and took the phone. Patty tried to grab it back, but I was faster. I opened YouTube. Her channel was called Patty Creswell Life of Dreams. The latest video, 5 Ways to Achieve Financial Freedom, had 51 views in 2 weeks, 0 comments, 3 likes. I scrolled down. The previous video had 38 views, further down, 22. "It'll be funny if more people watch this conversation than your videos," I said, and put the phone back on the table. Patty grabbed it and clutched it in her hand. "You don't understand. This is normal in the beginning. All successful bloggers have been through this. You just need to invest a little money, and everything will take off." "Patty, I'm not giving you $1,000. She froze. The smile disappeared from her face, leaving something cold and hard. "Why?" "Because I don't have $1,000 for your experiments. I barely have enough to live on. I pay for my apartment, food, gas, and I paid for my mom's apartment all year while you told her fairy tales about your success." Patty stood up. She paced around the room, her arms crossed over her chest. "You know what your problem is, Mandy. You don't know how to dream. You don't know how to take risks. You're stuck in your stupid job at the computer club, fixing mice for gamers, and you think that's all you're capable of. Maybe, but at least I pay my bills. I pay my bills too. No, your mom pays your bills with her savings." Patty turned away sharply, her face flushed. "It's temporary. I'll start earning money soon, and I'll pay her back every penny." "When? When your channel reaches 100 subscribers? 1,000? "You're making fun of me." "No, I'm just being realistic." Patty moved closer. Her voice softened again, almost pleading. "Mandy, please, this is family. We have to support each other. Dad always said that, remember? Family is the most important thing." Something ached in my chest at the memory of Dad. He really did say that. He always tried to reconcile us when we fought. But Dad was dead, and Patty only remembered him when she needed something. "If family is so important, why did you set me up today?" I asked quietly. "I didn't set you up. I was just protecting Mom from your manipulation." "What manipulation?" I was telling the truth. "You wanted to look like a heroine, to show how good you are and how bad I am. Classic manipulation." I stood up. I felt a wave of fatigue wash over me. I didn't want to argue anymore. I didn't want to explain, justify myself, or prove anything anymore. "Patty, I'm not giving you any money. Go home." She looked at me for a long time. Then she smiled, coldly, unpleasantly. "You'll regret it. When I become successful, when I have millions, you'll regret not investing in me now. I'll do it myself, without your help, and then you'll see how wrong you were." She took her shoes, threw on her jacket, and left, slamming the door behind her. I stood in the middle of the living room and listened to her footsteps receding down the hallway. Then silence. I thought that was the end, that Patty would never come back. How naive I was. The next 2 days passed quietly. I went to work, repaired computers, set up the network, talked to regular customers. I tried not to think about my mother, about Patty, about what happened at the birthday party, but the thoughts kept coming back like a nagging pain. On the evening of the third day, when I had just come home and taken off my shoes, the phone rang. It was my mother. I hesitated to pick up the phone, but finally pressed the green button. "Hello? You stole my money!" Mom shouted immediately without saying hello. Her voice trembled with rage. "How could you? How dare you?" I froze with the phone to my ear. "What? I didn't steal anything." "You're lying. $500 disappeared from my account. Patty saw you transfer it to yourself. She showed me a screenshot. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" I felt a chill inside. The account. The same account that my mother had had access to since my college days. I gave her access in case of an emergency, if I suddenly got sick or something serious happened, but I forgot about it. I forgot that there was almost $2,000 in there, my savings for a new laptop and a safety net for a rainy day. "Mom, I didn't take your money." On the contrary, someone withdrew money from my account. "Don't make things up. Patty saw everything. You logged into my online banking and transferred $500 to yourself. I have proof." "What proof? Show me that screenshot." "Don't you dare talk to me in that tone. I'm your mother, and I know when you're lying. You've always been cunning. You always tried to make Patty look bad, but now I see who you really are. A thief, a liar." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down, but my hands were shaking. "Mom, think logically. Why would I steal your money when I've been paying for your apartment for a year? I gave you 3 times more than those $500. You didn't give me anything. It was Patty, and you just want to take credit for her achievements. Disgusting." "You disgust me, Amanda." Something cracked inside me. It didn't even hurt. It was just something that finally broke. "All right," I said quietly. "If that's the case, then I don't want anything more to do with you. I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want to see you anymore. You're not my daughter. My daughter wouldn't steal from her own mother." She hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, unable to move. Then I went into the bank app. I checked my account. Sure enough, $500 was gone. The transfer was made last night at 11 p.m. I was at work until 9 last night. Then I drove home. There were witnesses, colleagues, clients. But my mother wasn't interested. I called the bank. The operator said that transfers can be appealed, but it takes time, documents, and a statement. I asked her to block my mother's access to the account. She was surprised, but she did it. That evening, my mother sent me a message. "Take your things out of the apartment. I don't want anything of yours here. You no longer exist for me." I arrived the next morning. My mother opened the door but did not let me in. She just stood on the threshold with a stony face. "Hurry up and leave." I walked past her to my old room. There was almost nothing left. I had taken most of my things when I moved out. Only a few books, old notebooks, a photo album. I packed everything into a box, moving mechanically. My mother stood in the doorway and watched. She was silent. I was silent too. What could I say? As I was about to leave, I glanced at the wall in the hallway. There was a family photo hanging there. All 4 of us back when my father was still alive. I was 12. Patty was 19. We were standing by the lake, smiling. Dad was hugging Mom, and they looked happy. I looked happy. Even Patty was smiling sincerely, without the falseness that appeared later. I walked over to the photo and took it off the wall. Mom gasped. "What are you doing?" "Taking it. It's the only thing I cherish here." "Put it back. It's my photo. It's my dad in it. He was mine too, and I want to remember him, even if you want to forget me." Mom stepped forward as if she wanted to snatch the frame, but I held on tight. We stood there for a few seconds, looking at each other. Then she backed away. "Take it and get out." I took the box, tucked the photo under my arm, and left. I went down the stairs and got into the car. I put the box in the back seat and the photo in the front next to me. I looked at it. Dad was smiling. He always smiled in photos. I started the engine, and then the phone rang. Unknown number. I wanted to hang up, but something made me answer. "Hello? Mandy, it's Grandma Esther. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you." Grandma Esther lived in a small house on the very outskirts of town, where the asphalt ended and the dirt road began. The house was old, painted pale yellow with a small porch and a garden behind it. I remembered this house from my childhood. I used to come here in the summer when my mother didn't know what to do with me. When I pulled up, my grandmother was already standing on the porch, 76 years old, gray-haired, with a cane in her hand, but her back was straight and her gaze was clear. She looked at me, at the box in my hands, at the photo under my arm, and just nodded. "Come in, Mandy. Tea is ready." I went inside. The house smelled as it always did, of mint, old books, and something sweet, probably cookies. Grandma pointed to the sofa in the living room. "Sit down. I'll bring the cups." I sat down, placing the box at my feet. I held the photo on my lap and looked at my father's face. He would have known what to say. He always knew. Grandma returned with 2 cups of hot tea and a plate of oatmeal cookies. She sat down opposite me, carefully placing her cane next to the chair. "Tell me," she said simply. And I told her everything. About Mom's birthday, about how Patty called me a liar, about how Mom didn't believe me, about the $1,000 Patty asked for, about the $500 that disappeared from my account, about how Mom called me a thief and said she didn't want to see me anymore. Grandma listened silently, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she sighed and took a sip of tea. "Your mother is my daughter, Mandy, but that doesn't mean she's always right. It never has." I looked at her in surprise. Grandma rarely spoke critically of my mother. "Doreen was always a difficult child," Grandma continued, staring out the window. "Stubborn, selfish, in love with the idea of a perfect life. When Patty was born, she was so happy. The perfect child at the perfect time. She planned everything. When to feed her, when to bathe her, when to put her to bed. Patty grew up like a flower under glass, well cared for but fragile." She paused and tasted a cookie. "And then you came along. Unexpectedly. Doran didn't want a second child, said she wasn't ready. I convinced her that everything would be fine, that children are happiness. But she didn't listen. She wanted to have an abortion, but Earl wouldn't let her. Your dad was a good man, Mandy. He loved you even before you were born." Something tightened in my throat. I swallowed my tea, trying to push the lump down. "When you were born, Doreen held you, but not like Patty, not with the same tenderness. I saw it and tried to make up for it. I came over, took you to my place, spent time with you, but I couldn't replace your mother. No one could." "Why didn't you ever tell me this before?" "Because you were a child. Children shouldn't know such things about their parents. But now you're grown up, and now you have the right to know the truth." Grandma put her cup on the table and leaned forward. "What are you planning to do next?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Live my life, I guess. Forget about them." "You can't forget, but you can let go." She paused, then suddenly smiled, a sly, almost childish smile. "What if you just stop paying for your mother's apartment? Let Patty show her successful projects. Let's see how long she lasts." I shuddered. "Grandma, I can't. She's my mother. She'll be left without money, without electricity. She'll leave you without a family, without support, without love. Why should you care about her more than she cares about you? Because I'm not like her." "No," Grandma nodded. "You're not like her. You're kind. But kindness doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them feel the consequences of their actions." I thought about her words all night. I lay on the fold-out bed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling and thinking. In the morning, I made a decision. I logged into online banking and canceled all automatic transfers to my mother's address, electricity, internet, part of the rent, everything. My hands trembled as I pressed the confirmation buttons, but I did it. The first week passed quietly. I commuted to work from my grandmother's house. It was 20 minutes further, but I didn't mind. Grandma made breakfast. We had dinner together, watched old movies on her small TV. She told stories from the past, about my grandfather, whom I never knew, about how she worked as an accountant at the local hospital for 40 years, about how she raised my mother alone after my grandfather died of cancer. Doran was 15 at the time, my grandmother said one evening as she peeled potatoes for dinner. She took it very hard. She withdrew into herself and stopped talking. I tried to reach out to her, but she pushed me away. She said I was to blame for her father's death because I didn't make him go to the doctor sooner. That's not fair. Yes, but grief is rarely fair. People need someone to take their pain out on. For Doreen, it was me back then. For her now, it's you. The second week was also quiet. I began to get used to the new rhythm of life. Morning coffee with my grandmother, work, dinner together, conversations late into the night. Sometimes it seemed to me that I was living in some kind of alternate world where my family simply did not exist, where there was no mother with a cold stare and no Patty with a fake smile. But at the beginning of the third week, my mother called. I didn't answer the phone. She called again. Then she sent a message. "Why haven't you paid the bills? They're going to cut off the electricity. Doreen." Not Mom, just Doreen. I didn't answer. I turned off my phone and went to work. The fourth week was the hardest. I began to have doubts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I really should help my mom no matter how she treats me. My grandmother saw my hesitation. "Don't give up now, Mandy. If you give up, they'll never learn. They'll never see how they hurt you." What if they don't want to see? Then at least you'll know the truth, and you'll be able to move on without feeling guilty. The month ended. I had almost calmed down, almost believed that it was really over, that no one else would come, call, or remind me of the past. And then, on Saturday afternoon, while I was helping my grandmother in the garden, a car pulled up to the gate, a black Honda, which I recognized immediately. Patty. She got out wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair tied back in a ponytail. She looked tired, not as flawless as usual. She walked up to the gate but didn't open it. She just stood there and looked at me. "Mandy, we need to talk." Grandma straightened up, leaning on her cane, and looked at Patty coldly. "My granddaughter doesn't want to talk to you." "With all due respect, Mrs. Wilson, this is a family matter between me and Mandy. You have the nerve to come here after everything you've done." Patty clenched her teeth. "I didn't do anything wrong. I was protecting my mother." "From whom? From the daughter who fed her for a whole year?" Patty didn't answer. She just looked at me. "Mandy, please, 5 minutes." Grandma touched my shoulder. "You don't have to if you don't want to." But I wanted to. For some reason, I wanted to hear what she had to say. Maybe to convince myself once and for all that I had made the right choice. "Okay," I said. 5 minutes. We went out to the garden where Grandma couldn't hear us. I crossed my arms over my chest and waited. Suddenly, I remembered my grandmother's words from the night before. "If she comes, and she will come, record the conversation. You'll need evidence." At the time, I thought my grandmother was being paranoid, but now, without her noticing, I turned on the voice recorder on my phone in my jeans pocket. Patty sighed and ran her hand over her face. "Listen, I understand that you're angry, but this has gone too far. Mom is out of money. They cut off her electricity the day before yesterday. Her internet, too. She can't pay the rent for this month. The landlord is threatening to evict her. What do you want me to do?" "Give the money back, please. I know you're angry with us, but Mom isn't to blame. She's just old and confused. She's 54. She's not old. Mandy, don't be so cold. She's our mother. Your mom. My mom kicked me out and called me a thief." Patty tensed up. Something flashed in her eyes. Irritation, maybe even anger. "Fine. You want me to apologize? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I called you a liar. I'm sorry for everything. Now give me back the money." "No? Why the hell not?" "Because you're not sorry. You just want me to start paying again so you don't have to." Patty laughed, shortly, without joy. "Of course I don't want to. I don't have any money. My channel still isn't making any money, and my mom spent all her savings on my apartment. If you don't help her, she'll have to move in with me. And I have a studio. I can't live in the same room with her." "Then get a job." I'm working on my channel. That's a job too. With 30 subscribers? She stepped closer and her voice became quieter, more threatening. Listen to me carefully, Mandy. If you don't resume payments, I'll find a way to frame you again. Worse than last time. Mom will believe me, as always, and then you'll lose her for good. I've already lost her. Not yet, but you will if you don't listen to me. My heart was pounding, but I stood calmly. The phone in my pocket recorded every word. How did you frame me last time, Patty? Tell me in detail. She blinked, surprised by the question. What are you talking about? The $500. How did you make Mom believe that I stole it? Patty was silent for a few seconds. Then she smiled, tiredly, almost honestly. It wasn't difficult. I knew you had access to Mom's account and she had access to yours. I logged into your banking account using Mom's phone and transferred the money to myself. Then I took a screenshot of the transfer, but replaced the recipient's name with yours. Photoshop. Basic skills. I showed it to Mom. She doesn't understand technology, so she believed me right away. I could hardly breathe. She confessed. She just confessed. Why? Why did you do it? Because I needed my mom to turn away from you, so she would stop trusting you. Otherwise, you would have told her the truth about me that I don't help, but you do. And then my mom would have started asking questions, and I didn't want that. You destroyed my relationship with Mom for $500. Not for the money, so Mom would stay on my side. She's always been on my side, Mandy. Always. And I won't let you change that. Silence. Birds sang somewhere in the trees. The wind rustled the leaves. Patty looked at me, waiting for an answer. Is that all? I asked quietly. What do you mean, is that all? Have you said everything? Is there anything else you want to confess? She narrowed her eyes. What are you talking about? Nothing. Just asking. Patty stepped back, crossing her arms. I've said everything. Now it's your turn. Will you resume the payments or not? No. Then be prepared for the consequences. It's your fault, Mandy. Whatever happens to Mom will be your fault. Remember that. She turned and walked to her car. She got in, started the engine, and drove away without even looking back. I stood there watching the dust rise behind her wheels. Then I took my phone out of my pocket. The voice recorder was still recording. I stopped the recording, rewound to the beginning, and listened. Patty's voice was clear. I logged into your bank account using my mom's phone and transferred the money to myself. Then I took a screenshot of the transfer, but replaced the recipient's name with yours. Evidence. I had evidence. My grandmother came out onto the porch and looked at me. Did you record it? Yes. What now? Now I'm going to my mom's. My heart was pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. I got in the car and put my phone on the passenger seat. I started the engine. My hands were shaking. It took 20 minutes to get to my mom's. I drove slowly, gathering my thoughts. What would I say? How would I explain? Would she believe me this time? I parked near the familiar house. I climbed the stairs. I knocked on the door. It opened almost immediately, but it wasn't my mother standing in the doorway. It was Patty. She was smiling. Surprise, Patty said, her voice sweet as poison. I froze in the doorway. Behind her, deep inside the apartment, I could see my mother. She was sitting on the sofa, hugging her shoulders, staring at the floor. What are you doing here? I asked. I'm staying here temporarily. Mom invited me because she's lonely. Right, Mom? Mom nodded without looking up. Patty stepped back, letting me in. I entered, clutching my phone in my pocket. The apartment looked different, darker, colder. The curtains were closed, and only one lamp was on in the corner. There was a pile of unwashed dishes on the table and boxes of Patty's things on the floor. Mom, I said, coming closer, I need to talk to you. Mom finally looked up. Her face was gray with dark circles under her eyes. She had lost weight over the past month. About what? Her voice was quiet and emotionless. About what happened. About the money. About Patty. We've already discussed everything. Patty interrupted, sitting down next to Mom. "You stole the money, we kicked you out. The story is over." "No, it's not over. I have proof that you did it." Patty laughed. "What proof?" I took out my phone, found the recording, and pressed play. Patty's voice rang out in the silence of the apartment, clear and recognizable. "It wasn't difficult. I knew you had access to Mom's account, and she had access to yours. I logged into your banking account using Mom's phone and transferred the money to myself. Then I took a screenshot of the transfer, but replaced the recipient's name with yours. Photoshop, basic skills. I showed it to my mom. She doesn't understand technology, so she believed it right away." Silence. I looked at my mom, waiting for her reaction. She listened, her face stiffening with every word. When the recording ended, she was silent for a few more seconds. Then she said, "It's fake." I didn't understand right away. I just stood there and looked at her. "What?" "It's fake, Amanda. You hired someone who sounds like Patty and recorded it, or you edited it with computer software. I've read that it's possible now." The world spun. I grabbed the back of the chair to keep from falling. "Mom, it's a real recording. I recorded it an hour ago when Patty came to visit Grandma. She admitted it herself." Patty leaned forward and fake tears appeared in her eyes. "Mom, she's a system administrator. She can edit anything. I never said that. I would never hurt you. You know me." Mom nodded, hugging Patty's shoulders. "I know. You're my good girl. You always have been." Something broke inside me. Not even my heart. Something deeper. The last thread of hope that I didn't even realize I was holding on to. "You don't believe me," I said quietly. "Even now. Even when you hear her voice, her words. You still don't believe me." "I believe my daughter," Mom said, her voice firm. "My real daughter. And who am I? You're a mistake. You've always been a mistake." She said it calmly, without anger, as if stating a fact. And that's why it hurt so much. Not because she yelled, but because she simply stated it. I started laughing. Quietly at first, then louder. I couldn't stop. Patty looked at me as if I were crazy. Maybe I was. "You know what, Mom?" I said when the laughter finally subsided. "You're right. I was a mistake. But not mine. Yours. You made a mistake when you gave birth to me and couldn't love me. You made a mistake when you chose Patty over me again and again. You made a mistake when you believed her instead of me. And you're making a mistake now. Get out of my apartment." Gladly. I turned toward the door, but then stopped. I looked back at my mother one last time. "When you need money, and you will, because Patty will never help you, don't call me. Don't come to me. Don't look for me. I no longer exist for you, remember? You said so yourself." My mother didn't answer. Patty smiled. I left, closing the door quietly without slamming it. I went down the stairs, holding onto the railing because my legs were shaking. I got in the car. I put my head on the steering wheel, and then my phone rang. It was my grandmother. "Hello?" My voice was trembling. "Mandy, what happened?" "Are you at Mom's?" I was. She didn't believe me. She said I had faked the recording. Grandma was silent for a long time. Then she sighed. "Come home, sweetheart. This is your home now." "Grandma, I can't stay here, in this city. I can't see them, knowing they're nearby." "Then go. Go anywhere you want. Start a new life. You're young, smart. You have your whole life ahead of you. Don't let them take your future away from you." I wiped away tears I hadn't noticed until they ran down my cheeks. "What about you?" "I'll be here. I'll always be here. Wherever you go, you can always call me. You can always come back if you want." I tried to say something, but my voice broke. I just sat there and cried, and my grandmother waited silently on the other end of the line. When the tears stopped, she said quietly, "Go home. Pack your things. Tomorrow morning you'll go wherever you want. But today, rest." I did just that. I went back to my grandmother's, went up to the guest room, and fell onto the bed. I fell asleep fully clothed, without undressing. I slept without dreams, a heavy, dead sleep. In the morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. My grandmother had made breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, freshly squeezed orange juice. We ate in silence. Then she took an old cardboard box out of the closet. "Take this," she said. "It's some money I've been saving, $2,000. It'll be enough for the first and last month's rent, plus a little for food until you find a job." "Grandma, I can't take your savings." "You can and you will. I don't need it. I'm old, I have a house and a pension. You need a start." "Take it and don't argue." I took the money and hugged my grandmother so tightly that she almost suffocated. She stroked my head like she did when I was a child. "Go, Mandy. Live your life. Be happy. That's the best revenge." I packed my things in an hour. Everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. I loaded everything into the car and hugged my grandmother one last time on the porch. "Will you call when you get there?" "I promise." I got in the car and drove away. I didn't look back. I just drove straight west to Portland. It was 2 hours away, a big city where I could blend in with thousands of people and start over. The first few weeks were tough. I found a small studio on the outskirts of town in an old building with cracked walls and noisy neighbors. But the apartment was mine, and that was the main thing. I unpacked my things, hung a photo of my dad on the wall, and bought a potted plant so the room wouldn't look so empty. I found a job in a week. The IT company Technova was looking for a junior system administrator. The salary was higher than at the computer club, the schedule was stable, and my colleagues were reasonable. My boss, a man in his 40s named David Foster, was calm and professional. He didn't ask any unnecessary questions, just showed me my workplace and explained my responsibilities. For the first month, I worked and came home. Nothing else. Food, sleep, work. Food, sleep, work. Mechanically, automatically. My grandmother called every day, asked how I was doing, and told me about her life, about the flowers in the garden, about her neighbor, Mrs. Rogers, who had another fight with her son. I listened and felt a little less lonely. The second month was a little easier. I started talking to my colleagues during lunch. I learned that Marcus from accounting plays board games, that Rachel from sales loves movie marathons, that David used to be in a rock band and still plays guitar on weekends. In the third month, I decided to try something new. I saw an ad for a yoga studio near my home. Yoga for beginners, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30 p.m. I didn't like sports and had never done anything physical, but something pushed me to go in. The instructor, a woman in her mid-30s named Cassandra Lawton, was patient and friendly. She didn't laugh when I couldn't keep my balance. She didn't scold me when I stopped in the middle of an exercise, gasping for breath. She just said, "Listen to your body. It knows what you need." After a month, I began to notice changes. Not physical ones, even though my body had become stronger and more flexible, but internal ones. I became calmer. I thought less about my mother, about Patty, about what had happened. Sometimes a whole day would go by and I wouldn't mention them once. The fourth month brought an unexpected acquaintance. A new programmer showed up at work. Leo Harper, 26 years old, tall, thin, with glasses and a constant ironic smile. He sat down at the desk across from mine and we started talking. First about work, then about movies, books, music. It turned out we had a lot in common. We both loved old movies, we both listened to 80s rock, we both hated corporate parties. "Would you like to go for coffee after work?" he asked one day when we were fixing the server together. I flinched. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't ready. I don't know. Just coffee. Nothing serious. I promise not to talk about my comic book collection. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Okay, just coffee. We went to a small coffee shop around the corner. We talked about everything and nothing. He told me about his family, his retired parents who had moved to Florida, his younger brother who was in college. He told me how he had moved to Portland 3 years ago from Ohio, looking for a better job and new opportunities. "What about you?" he asked. "Where are you from?" I hesitated. I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want to ruin this light-hearted, pleasant evening with heavy stories. "From a small town. Not far from here. Is your family there? Yes, but we don't talk. He nodded, not insisting. I understand. I have relatives I don't talk to either. Sometimes distance is the best thing we can do for ourselves. I looked at him in surprise. He understood. No explanations, no long stories. He just understood. Would you like some more coffee? He asked, smiling. Yes, I would. For the first time in 5 months, I began to feel like a person again. Not a shadow, not a victim, not a forgotten daughter, just a person. I went to work, did yoga, and met with Leo. We weren't a couple, not officially, but we spent a lot of time together. Movies on Fridays, walks in the park on Sundays, lunches together at work. My grandmother was happy when I told her about him. Is he a good guy? Very good. Then hold on to him. There aren't many good people. The 6th month brought a sense of stability. I got a promotion at work. Now I was no longer a junior system administrator, but a regular one. My salary increased. I was able to save some money and even bought a new laptop. I moved to a better apartment, not a studio, but a real 1-bedroom apartment with a bedroom and a living room, with windows overlooking the park. Leo helped me with the move. He carried boxes, assembled furniture, and joked when I got nervous over little things. When everything was ready, we sat on the floor among the boxes, eating pizza and drinking beer. It's nice here, he said, looking around. It feels like home. Yes, I nodded. It does. For the first time in a very long time, I felt like I had a home. Not an apartment, not temporary housing, a home. One evening, when I was coming back from yoga, the phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press the green button. Hello? Silence. Then a familiar voice. Mandy, it's me, Mom. My heart skipped a beat. I stopped in the middle of the street, unable to move. What do you want? I need to see you, please. It's important. I don't want to see you. Please, Mandy, I was wrong. We need to talk. Her voice was trembling. She was crying. Where are you now? I asked against my better judgment. Outside your house. I turned around sharply. A woman was standing at the entrance to the building, thin, aged, wearing an old coat. Mom. She looked at me across the street, holding the phone to her ear. I walked slowly toward her. I stood a few meters away, not getting any closer. How did you find me? I asked Grandma Esther. She didn't want to talk for a long time, but finally she told me the city, and then I hired a private investigator. Mandy, please, I need to talk to you. I looked at her. This woman gave birth to me. This woman never loved me. This woman kicked me out, and now she's standing here, asking for a meeting. About what? Mom took a step forward. Her face was wet with tears. About Patty. She took everything, all my money, $60,000, everything I had, $60,000. I repeated the number in my head, trying to comprehend it. It was all of Dad's savings, which he had left to Mom, money that was supposed to last her for the rest of her life, money that would allow her to buy a small house, travel, live peacefully. How? I asked, my voice sounding strange, detached. Mom wiped her face with her coat sleeve. Her hands were shaking. Can I come in? It's cold out here, please. I hesitated. Every cell in my body screamed, don't let her in. Walk away, close the door forever. But I stepped back, letting her in. We went up to my apartment. Mom looked around, examining the new furniture, the paintings on the walls, the plants on the windowsill. I didn't offer her a seat. I just stood by the door with my arms crossed and waited. Nice apartment, Mom said quietly. You've settled in well. I worked, alone, without help. She nodded, not arguing. She sat on the edge of the sofa, holding her bag on her lap. She looked old, broken. In 6 months, she had aged 10 years. Tell me, I said, what happened? Mom took a deep breath. 2 months ago, Patty met a man named Jason Clark. He ran seminars on financial independence, investing, how to double your money in 6 months. Patty went to one of his seminars and came back thrilled. She said it was her chance. that she could finally be successful. I listened silently. Jason suggested she invest in his startup, some kind of tech company. I didn't understand the details. He promised to double her money in 6 months. Patty didn't have any money, but she really wanted to try. She believed in him so much. And you gave her your savings. Mom nodded, her eyes filling with tears again. $60,000. Everything I had. I thought I was helping her, that this was her chance to become what she always wanted to be, successful, independent. And what happened? Jason disappeared a month later. His phone was turned off, his office was closed, his website was deleted. Patty tried to find him, went to the police, but they said there were hundreds of cases like this, that there was almost no chance of getting the money back. She cried for real now, sobbing, trembling. I stood and watched, feeling nothing. No sympathy, no joy, no satisfaction, just emptiness. Patty disappeared for a week after that. She didn't answer her phone or open her door. I thought she might do something terrible. Then she came back, and we talked. She admitted that she had taken the money from your account back then, that she had faked the screenshot, that she had framed you. And you believed her. Now. I didn't want to believe it before. I couldn't. Patty was always my perfect girl, you know? The one I could rely on, the one I could be proud of. And you were always difficult, quiet, distant, because you never gave me a chance to be different. Mom was silent. Then she nodded. Yes, I know. I understand that now. Now, when you're out of money. Not just that. Mandy, I really understand. I was a bad mother to you. I gave Patty all my love, all my attention, all my opportunities, and you were left with crumbs. And you still helped me, paid for my apartment, without asking for anything in return. And I didn't even thank you. On the contrary, I accused you of stealing. She stood up and came closer. I stepped back and she stopped, understanding. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. But I'm asking for help. Just lend me some money. I'll pay you back, I promise. I'll find a job, any job, and I'll pay you back every cent. I looked at her. The woman who gave birth to me but never loved me. The woman who chose another daughter over and over again. The woman who came only because she had nowhere else to go. Where are you living now? I asked. At Patty's, in her studio. We share a bed, take turns sleeping on the couch. The landlord raised the rent, and Patty is barely making ends meet. She found a job as a waitress, but the pay is low. We eat instant noodles and bread. We don't even have money for normal food. Something tugged at my heart. It wasn't pity, just an echo of old pain. Wait here, I said, and went to the bedroom. In the closet, under a pile of sweaters, was an envelope. I had been saving money for emergencies. $2,000. I took half, $1,000 bills. I returned to the living room. Here's $1,500, I said, handing her the envelope. That's all I can give you. Mom grabbed the envelope, her eyes lighting up with hope. Thank you. Oh, Mandy, thank you. I'll pay you back, I promise, as soon as I can. You don't have to pay me back. She looked at me in surprise. I'm not lending it to you, I explained. I'm giving it to you forever. Not because I don't have any more. I have more. It's because this is what I want to give. It's my decision, my choice. I don't understand. You're getting $1,500, not because you're a good mother, not because you deserve it, because I decided to give it to you, because it makes me feel better, because I know you won't be sleeping on the street. But that's all. Mom clutched the envelope in her hands. Mandy, thank you. This means so much to me. And I want you to know, I'm really sorry. I really want to make things right. Maybe we can start over? I'll be better. I'll pay more attention to you. No, I interrupted. We're not starting over. But I said I'm sorry. You're sorry because you're out of money, not because you realized how much it hurt me all these years. You're sorry for the consequences, not for your actions. That's not fair. I really understand. You understood when Patty confessed that she had set me up, when you lost all your money, when you were left alone, without support, without funds. You understood not because you saw my pain, but because you felt your own. Mom started crying again, now loudly, desperately. What should I do? How can I live with this? I don't know, Mom. That's your problem, not mine. Give me another chance, please. I'll be different. No. I gave you a chance when I brought you the recording of Patty's confession. You didn't believe me. You called it a fake. You chose her over me one last time, and now I'm choosing myself. Mandy, take the money and go. And don't come back here. Don't call me. Don't look for me. I don't want you in my life. You made your choice 6 months ago. Now live with it. Mom looked at me, and in her eyes was a mixture of shock, pain, and something else, maybe even respect. She slowly got up and put the envelope in her bag. I don't deserve your forgiveness, do I? No, I said honestly. You don't. She nodded, as if accepting the verdict. She walked to the door and paused on the threshold. Your father would have been proud of you. You are stronger than I ever was. She left. I closed the door, listening to her footsteps receding. Then silence. I sat down on the sofa, wrapping my arms around my knees. I didn't cry. I just sat and breathed. I felt something heavy that had been pressing on my chest for years finally let go. It didn't disappear. It just let go. The phone rang. Leo. Hi, I answered. Hey, how are you? You sound strange. Fine, just tired. Do you want me to come over? I smiled even though he couldn't see me. Yes, I do. He arrived in 20 minutes. I opened the door and he immediately hugged me. Without asking, without demanding an explanation. He just hugged me and held me until I calmed down. What happened? He finally asked. My mom came by. She asked for money. And you gave it to her? A little. 1,500. He stepped back, looking at me. That's a lot of money. I know, but it makes me feel better, knowing she won't be sleeping on the street. That I did everything I could, and I don't owe her anything else. Leo nodded. I understand. What next? Nothing. I told her not to come anymore, not to call, not to look for me. And how do you feel? I thought about it. How did I feel? Empty? Sad? Free? Different things. But lighter. As if I had taken off the backpack I had been carrying my whole life. He smiled. That's good. You deserve to feel light. We spent that evening together. We watched a movie, ate pizza, talked about trivial things. He didn't ask any more questions about my mother or my family. He was just there. And that was all I needed. A year passed unnoticed. I got another promotion. Now I was a senior IT specialist. My salary allowed me to save money, travel, and buy things I wanted. I moved into an even better apartment. A 2-bedroom with a bright kitchen and a balcony. Leo and I became an official couple. It wasn't fast or dramatic, just gradual and natural. He introduced me to his parents on a video call. Nice people who talked about the weather in Florida and asked about my job. I didn't tell them about my family. I just said that my parents lived far away and we rarely talked. Grandma Esther came to visit me once a month. I would meet her at the bus station, take her to my place, and we would spend the weekend together. We would cook, watch movies, and walk in the park. She would tell me about life in her town, her neighbors, and her garden. She never mentioned Mom or Patty unless I asked. How are they? I asked once as we sat on my balcony drinking tea. Grandma sighed. Doran found a job cleaning at a school. The pay is low, but it's steady. She still lives with Patty. Patty works as a waitress in 2 places, trying to save money. Have they asked about me? Doreen asked twice. I told them you were fine. Nothing else. What about Patty? Patty didn't ask. I nodded. I wasn't surprised. Patty never cared about me unless she needed something. Don't you regret it? Grandma asked quietly. What? That you don't talk to them. That you let them go. I thought about my answer for a long time. I looked at the city below, at the trees in the park, at the people walking along the paths. Sometimes I regret it. Not that I let them go, but that everything turned out the way it did, that my mother couldn't love me, that Patty couldn't be a sister. But I don't regret my decision. I realized something important. What exactly? That forgiveness isn't for them. It's for me. I forgave my mother for not being able to love me the way I needed her to. I forgave Patty for using me. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It doesn't mean I have to give them another chance to break me. Grandma took my hand and squeezed it. "You're a wise girl, Mandy, wiser than your mother ever was." I learned from her. I learned what not to do. We smiled. We finished our tea. And then we went to make dinner together, as usual. That evening, Leo came to see me. The three of us sat on the balcony, me, Leo, and Grandma. We talked about work, about plans for the summer, about a new movie we wanted to see. Grandma told funny stories from her youth, and we laughed so loudly that the neighbors probably heard us. The phone rang. Unknown number. I looked at the screen, and something tightened in my chest. The number was from my hometown. The area code was familiar. Leo noticed. "Are you going to answer it?" I looked at him, then at my grandmother. She nodded. It was my decision. I pressed the red button. I hung up. "Everything okay?" Leo asked. I smiled. I really smiled. "Yes, everything's fine." My grandmother raised her cup of tea. "To new beginnings." Leo raised his coffee. "To new beginnings." I raised my cup. "To loving ourselves enough to let go of those who don't deserve to be in our lives." We clinked glasses. We drank. We laughed. And the phone didn't ring again.